there was a youth leadership conference in Atlanta, Georgia that was coming up, and I was set to go, went to juvenile hall, and then a lot of other folks told him, a lot of other adults told him he shouldn't take me. He should leave me here. There's no way in the world I was going to change and become a different person. But he gambled, and he still took me.
Becoming the first African-American male supervisor and president of the Board of Supervisors. I've seen all of the work, and I know that this time around, as you transition from presidency to getting back into the community and having the availability to get more involved, are you shifting some of that energy now as election season begins, and how will it change now? Or how has it changed from the presidency to being focused on constituency and those programs and things that reconnect you directly back to the community?
Definitely, I would even say as president, we were always in community, pretty busy. I spent a lot of time going to neighborhood restaurants, neighborhood bars, spending time with community, going to parks, playgrounds, visiting schools, and of course spending time at coffee shops with families. So definitely we're able to stay busy and be able to do that during the presidency. Now I get to do more of that, less time that I have to spend per se in City Hall versus being out in community. So that part is exciting again. People forget sometimes that I spent 2 years on the board prior to becoming the board president, and had an opportunity, of course, to work on so many different wonderful things. And so we're just back to continue the work that we started to make sure that during this second term, we're able to complete a lot of things that we fought for since the very beginning.
Great, great. And some of those things are?
Well, as soon as I came into office, we fought hard to ban e-cigarettes here in San Francisco because they were really harming young people and trying to lead them to a path of addiction to tobacco and nicotine. So we banned those, and making sure that that work continues and spreads across the world, quite frankly. We fought to close juvenile hall and still are in that battle in terms of reimagining the space, making sure that when young people make a mistake, they're able to go to a place where they actually receive the knowledge and information that they need to make better decisions versus feeding the juvenile hall to prison pipeline, which has been typical. And those are the types of things that have to change. So we still have much work to do there to get the courts to understand what we're trying to do completely and get them to sign off on whatever strategies we come up with as we move forward. Going to take a lot of resources also to achieve success in that area, so have to make that happen. And of course, once we get the reparations recommendations, making sure that we get the resources to finance those recommendations that come from the task force. All that work is going to continue to be important, and want to make sure that everything we've done, from Dreamkeeper Initiative to reparations to our community safety plan that we have in place, make sure that this stuff is indoctrinated into San Francisco law, because I won't always be in this position and in this role, and want to make sure that the people who come behind us continue to work. That's most vital for Black people here in San Francisco, but quite frankly, people of color as a whole.
Because reparations is a big deal for Black folks. I mean,
Definitely.
The involvement politically with this right now can come in the form of attending a meeting or being a part of a public meeting or a listening session, or what can people do, Black people particularly in San Francisco, what can they do right now to get involved politically with the reparations process, or help or support? Please just share how important it is for not just Black San Francisco, but Black Californians and Black folks nationally.
Well, people can definitely watch the Reparations Task Force meetings, which are the first Monday of the month. They can call in and give public comment. The meetings will actually be public pretty soon, so they'll be able to come in and also provide public comment in person, listen to the meetings, and send emails to of course, the task force and to the Human Rights Commission, let people know their thoughts, their opinions. We have a rally before we do the committee of the whole hearing at the Board of Supervisors on March 14th. There'll be more community forums, more rallies taking place over the next few months, again, before we get the final report in June. So those are just some ways to get involved. Obviously, they can email my office, email the leadership or the Human Rights Commission and provide their input so we can look at their responses and most certainly make sure that their input is forwarded to the task force and is something that is reviewed. Everybody has a lot to say about reparations, and we want to make sure that this is very inclusive in terms of getting the depth and breadth of suggestions and receiving information from the Black community here in San Francisco. To your point, we also need our allies to get involved and do more of the same that I just mentioned, attending meetings, coming out to rallies, participating. We were fortunate enough to have a gentleman by the name of John Osaki who did he made a documentary about reparations and the fact that the Japanese community had received some form of reparations, and that really getting the Japanese community and other communities to understand how important reparations is also for the Black community, but also really demonstrating that it's going to take all of us working together for us to be able to achieve reparations here in San Francisco. If all of our communities don't come together and understand the importance of reparations for Black folks, then it'll be hard for us to be successful. So I just want to give kudos to the allies who have also been coming to the table to work together and understanding how important reparations is, how much the Black community is owed. You bring us here from another country, take away our ability to learn and educate ourselves, take away our ability to reproduce and be able to raise families, take away our ability to be able to build wealth. You rape our mothers, you do everything you can to really disintegrate the power and strength of Black people when they brought us here. And so all of those things happened to us. And most certainly that has led to devastating consequences and never really given us the opportunity to achieve true wealth here in the city, never gave us the opportunity to really pass on land and property to our families for generations. And that has to change, and we have to do everything we can to provide an opportunity for Black people to achieve success in those areas. And because of what has been taken away from us, whether it be redlining here in San Francisco, whether it be putting us all in communities without representation, without an opportunity for us to be able to grow politically and achieve wealth, whether it be the fact that we had to pay taxes to educate white children here in San Francisco, but our children weren't able to receive an education. There are so many things that we can bring up to talk about the case for reparations. And as we do that, more importantly, we have to come up with those strategies that are going to really achieve true reparations here for us in San Francisco.
So, Supervisor Walton, describe the person that you are that people don't really know. Describe some of those parts of you that you think people may be surprised by.
I try to be transparent in everything I do, even as a member of the Board of Supervisors and as an elected official. I pretty much am the same direct person as I am as a servant on the board as I am in life. One of the things that I definitely think people should know is, for me, community always will come first. And I came to this work as a result of trying to make sure that I improve outcomes for my community, not necessarily trying to climb a political ladder. And so I want people to understand that what you see is what you get, that I'm the same person as an elected official, as I am in community, as I am with family, and just really want to do everything I can to affect change in a positive way in this short period of time in this office.
Yeah. And so your intentions weren't to get into politics?
So it's funny that you asked that. I actually, when I was young, I knew I wanted to affect change. My English teacher in my senior year had us write an essay about our high school years and what we want to do in the future. And I wrote about all the issues that I had in high school growing up, all the mistakes I made, and talked about wanting to be an attorney and maybe eventually be in Congress. and it was published in the newspaper. And so I will say that I always wanted to affect change and always be in a position where I could help improve outcomes for people, particularly my community. And so I definitely had thoughts of being an elected official and being in certain roles. But at the same time, I've been fortunate enough to have positions where you can make an impact and not have to be an elected official. And I think that people have to understand that we all have a role in whatever fight or with whatever we want to accomplish and achieve. And everybody's role is going to be and can be different. And you don't have to be an elected official to make changes. You don't have to be an executive director to make changes. You don't have to be a department head to make changes. But most certainly you have to be dedicated and committed to being in the fight and achieving success in whatever it is you want to focus on.
The process of writing the book, it didn't begin yesterday.
No.
It didn't begin last month.
No.
This has been a process, and I think that once you see it, it's published, then something happens again, and you realize that now what? I mean, so take us through the process of the idea, how it came to you, if it was your idea or not, and then the process of writing. And was it a daily process? Was it a fast process, for you?
So it's funny because a lot of people may not believe this, but I actually started writing this book in 1998.
1998.
So, yes, I was.
Wow.
I was working as a program coordinator for the Boys and Girls Club in Vallejo. I just graduated from college and been out a few months, and I was not, in my opinion, at a place where a college graduate should be in terms of finances, in terms of success. And so I decided to go back to Atlanta, Georgia, where I went to college, and stay for a little while. And I had my first laptop then and started writing the book when I was in Atlanta. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I would say for the first month and a half, I had a lot of stuff written. I wanted to write about being able to change, write about being able to come from a certain community, come from nothing, being told you weren't going to be successful, really being written off, to being able to, at the very least, become a college graduate, because most people thought I would be either dead or in jail by that time period in my life. So I wrote for a while, and then I stopped for a while, then wrote some more over the years, and then I said, I'm going to put out my book when I think the time is right. And kept waiting, and you never know when the time is right, right? That was by far a mistake, saying you're going to put something out when the time is right, because in reality, the time will never be right if you approach it that way. And so I wrote a lot, and then when I thought what I had was a finished product, I had my friend Keisha James, who had written a couple of fiction books, go through every chapter, and for lack of a better term, word everything nicer. I'm a very direct person, I'm a very transparent person, and sometimes my directness can be mistaken for lack of tact. And so she went through every chapter line by line and kind of helped make the language less colorful. And so again, that all started in '98, and here we are in 2023. And even
17 chapters.
Right, and even after that, I've taken out hundreds of pages from what was originally written for a whole bunch of reasons. But the main thing is I wanted to make sure that this book was done in a manner where it was readable for the population I'm trying to get to, which is people who I really think need to know and understand that they can change their lives. I want them to actually want to read it, and let it be something that they can use, hopefully help them understand that you can be at a dark place, you can be at a place of isolation and overcome it with, of course, God, mentorship, having a strong mom, and having the right people around you. My mentor, Fillmore Graham, who talked about education, who talked about going to historically black colleges and universities, who would come on the dope track and talk to us, who would come and get me when I was in negative situations, who believed in me even when people told him he shouldn't, was the game changer for me. In fact, my last time in juvenile hall, there was a youth leadership conference in Atlanta, Georgia that was coming up, and I was set to go, went to juvenile hall, and then a lot of other folks told him, a lot of other adults told him he shouldn't take me. He should leave me here. There's nowhere in the world I was going to change and become a different person. But he gambled, and he still took me to that leadership conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was out of juvenile hall maybe a couple of weeks before getting on that plane. And once I got to Atlanta, it was just a life-changing experience for me. Seeing all those young black men enjoying themselves, headed on the path of success, and really just looked like they were running the city. And I had never seen anything like that. You know, most of the young men I knew who lived the way they did, enjoyed life the way they did, were in that position because of something negative. And when I talked to all of those young men and asked them, how did you get to this point? What gave you the opportunities that you have? And pretty much all of them said education. And seeing that experience at that youth leadership conference sponsored by the Omega Psi Phi fraternity was something that really did a number on me.
Thinking back to your younger years when you were, having a difficult time, was that part of, what was that about? What were you trying, like you said, you needed to do it, or you had to do it in order to provide for what, or to prove what? What was it?
I think a big part of it was definitely being a product of environment. This is what everybody around me was doing. When I talk about my resume changing, I look at the fact that I had 2 children before I was 18 years old, expelled from Vallejo City Unified School District on more than one occasion, incarcerated a good chunk of my teenage life, been told consistently that I wouldn't be successful, raised by a single parent. That's what my resume would have read at a certain period of time. And that would have qualified you for death or a life of incarceration at that time period. But fortunately, I had mentorship and God's grace, and I had a strong mom who also played a major role in really getting me to understand that I was headed towards a life of destruction. So knowing and understanding at that stage that if I didn't do something different, my life was going to turn out to be different. And having, fortunately for me, the outlets for change led me to a point where I could still become successful. And I have to look at everything through that lens.
This is the last question. How do you want people to remember you for generations to come? When your grandchildren are adults and they're having children, think that far and that wide and that broad. If someone could pull you up on Wikipedia, well, they can right now, but what would you like to be remembered for, or how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as someone that people can say he understood the importance of community and understood the importance of making sure that you give back regardless of what you achieve and what you accomplish. I think it's one thing to be successful. I think it's one thing to take care of your own family, but I think it's vital that we do everything we can to ensure that our community benefits. And I would love to be remembered as someone who fought hard to make sure my community benefited.
Thank you. It's very sweet.